very hard the last 2 days, and it's much appreciated by people like myself. So I'm here to tell you about Eyebeam today with a general overview of the organization, and then I want to look at one specific initiative that we have with the organization that I think will be especially interesting to those of you in the audience here today. So Eyebeam is a little bit different than some of the other organizations and corporations that have been presenting so far the last 2 days. To start with, we're a nonprofit, NGO, 501c3 in the United States, and essentially we are a lab for experimentation with technology and the arts. So we've been around for 20 years. We've done a lot of experimenting in that time, and some amazing projects have come out of the organization. There's been a lot of talk about 3D printers the last couple of days. Bree Pettis was doing some of the first work on the MakerBot at Eyebeam in the early to mid-2000s. We've had people like Jonah Peretti, before he went on to found BuzzFeed, work as a fellow at the organization and doing initial work on systems that would be then implemented in BuzzFeed. But the essential thing that we do is we bring together creators across the spectrum, from the arts to technology to entrepreneurs, and we give them space, time, and money and a network within which they can essentially do whatever the hell they want. We give them space to fail, to try new things. Sometimes great projects come out of it, sometimes they don't. But we do believe that there's a real power and a real urgency to the creative practice when you bring multi-spectrum practitioners together and essentially put the best and the brightest in a room, give them tools, space, time, and throw away the keys. I've had the privilege of being director of the organization for a year now, and I have to say I find it an inspirational place to work on a daily basis. So Eyebeam has a very unique model that I've sort of alluded to so far. We bring in all of our technologists and engineers and artists through an open call process. We get, this year we got 412 applications for 5 spots for a 2-year, actually this year it'll be about a 1.5-year research residency. The research residency is a track that pays $37,000 per year for people to work with us, and it is highly competitive. Essentially all of us on the staff, our job is to support the work that happens from our residents and then help distribute it out into the world. We do that through partnerships. We partner nationally and internationally. We partner with museums and gallery spaces to show the work that our practitioners are doing. We have corporate partnerships as well. We're working with Shapeways in New York, which some of you may know is a 3D printing startup that we've been very happy to work with, and they've supported us a lot in that regard. We're also working with BuzzFeed on a open journalism R&D lab, which is a new initiative that we've launched together with them, where we bring in artists that are building new projects that can lead to R&D around journalistic tools that we haven't seen yet. It's a very interesting program, and we're just going into our 2nd year. We actually have an open call for that project right now, and we are taking international applicants for it. So if any of you know people that might be interested in such a project, please let me know. The current artists that are working in that fellowship are very interesting. They're called Saito Group, and essentially what they've done is they've created a geolocated sentiment analysis system that they can launch in any area, gather social media feeds, and then perform that in the space through visual projection, like onto buildings or onto surfaces where the event is happening. And why would BuzzFeed be interested in something like that? Well, they get to see the code that's being developed for the project, and they get to see new techniques that are being developed in this fellowship, and will be able to adapt that as they like. At the same time, I think it's a very innovative and forward-looking model, because artists often are the ones that are challenging what tools can do and helping us think through where technology can go and what are the limits of technology as well. They're often the ones that are thinking the furthest out onto the horizon, and to be able to have a space for them to help show us all what's next is very valuable. These are a few people that have come through Eyebeam over the years. This is an artist that worked with the organization from 2002 to 2006. Corey Archangel, he was the youngest artist to have a solo show at the Whitney. He was there around the time that Bree and Jonah were working with the organization, and some of the conversations that they had, I'm sure, influenced the work that each other went on to make. Aya worked with us for 3 years, from 2008 to 2011. She came to Eyebeam after working in industry. The story that I know and what she's told me is that she was actually designing code for ATM machines before coming to Eyebeam. She came to our organization, started working as an artist, went on to experiment with learning kits that can be snapped together to build electronics rather than using soldering tools. Went on to found Little Bits based on her first presentation of this project, and now Little Bits is a very successful entrepreneurial initiative that she's launched in New York, and it was one of the top selling Christmas gifts last year in the United States. Torquase Dyson is just finishing her research residency with the organization. She's developing she's using emerging solar technology and battery technology to make portable studios that she's driving around the country to collect stories, primarily from minority communities around climate change as part of a larger art practice. So she's someone who's really combining her art practice with construction, with emerging technology around a social issue. Nancy Novacek also is just finishing her research residency. She's building a bridge. It's not a metaphor. She's literally building a citizen-powered bridge that will live for one day in New York, and it will go from Brooklyn to Governor's Island. She's been working on this for about 8 years now. She finally got city approval to build the bridge. It's going to be made from repurposed materials. It will float for one day, and people will be able to cross it. It's really incredible, and this is where, to me, as someone who works with these people on day in and day out, I'm just amazed how she's able to combine the entrepreneurial thinking that would allow her to go through the bureaucratic hurdles in the city, that would allow her to fundraise for a project like this, to build a team, and essentially think like a business person in the most successful manner for essentially a conceptual art project that is actually going to happen now. So if you're interested in learning more about it, send me an email and I'll give you the date, and come to New York and you can cross the bridge too. Just as an aside, I learned a lot about maritime law in New York, just kind of by osmosis. And it turns out that for her to even have this bridge in place for a day, they have to shut down all the maritime traffic around the area. There also has to be a licensed psychiatrist that is available for anyone who might have suicidal thoughts while crossing the bridge. Apparently, every bridge has to have either a phone or a person to, deal with someone who is having a really bad day. That's getting her there. So this leads me to an initiative that I think may be interesting to many of you. We started a program called Computational Fashion 4 years ago, and the program was launched through a grant from the Rockefeller Brothers Innovation Fund, which was meant to bring together the fashion world in New York, the art world, and the technology world. And because we are a nonprofit, because we are a space that's not competing with any of these industries, the fund felt like we were the appropriate recipient of the grant, and it's been a real pleasure to see the program grow in these last 4 years. We've had over 30 people participate in our master class, we've had 2 funded fellowships, and we've had an audience of over 1,000 visit our talks and our exhibitions that have been related to the program. So it's quite interesting. It was co-chaired by Dr. Sabine Seymour, who is the CEO of Moondial, which is a very interesting wearable technology startup in New York that I would encourage you all to, if you don't know, I would highly encourage you to learn more about what she does. And it's a very unique program in many ways. We really do, again, see the value of bringing together an interdisciplinary practice in a single space to essentially experiment. Through the fellowships, this allowed two fellows a period of 2 years to experiment both with new materials and their garment construction, to show the work, exhibit it, get user feedback, see what people thought, and both further their career as well as push the technologies, some of the 3D printing technologies that were in use for this into the next round. And the core of the Computational Fashion Initiative is the master class, which we hold each summer. And that's where participants that typically are emerging designers or emerging technologists sign up for a multi-week course taught by experts, either established designers, tool makers, for a series of days throughout this multi-week period, while simultaneously working on new projects and working on an iteration of a new project that would then be shown in exhibition at the end. So this last summer we had a major exhibition in July of these garments that were developed through the program and was held at a major venue in New York City that received quite a lot of press and a lot of visitors. So we see the program as both training emerging designers about the possibilities of these technologies, and even maybe more than that in some ways, opening up the public perception of how technology can be used in garment construction, both in the design stage, the implementation stage, and the wearable stage. And as an institution, one of our goals is to be a public educational institute that can help make the public more aware of these potentials through their creative usage. And I think, the part of the philosophy of Eyebeam is that the arts, the creativity, are a way of kind of sugarcoating what might be somewhat alienating or new areas of technological development. And we found it to be a very successful way of helping the general public essentially get comfortable with what is happening, what some of these changes are, and what is being disrupted on a daily basis in all of our lives. And so there's a very unique role that we play in that regard. There aren't many institutions like Eyebeam. There are some similar institutions in Europe. I think I've had the pleasure of getting to know several organizations in South America that have a lot of similarities, and we're constantly trying to develop relationships both with corporate partners, with other NGOs, with nonprofits, to help spread the kind of model that we have to the larger world. And it's certainly an exciting growth period for us in that regard, because we've been a New York institution for a while, and we're doing a lot to try to expand our model to the West Coast and to other parts of the world, and South America being an important piece of that for us as well. And we have corporate relationships where we can provide first look into what our artists are making. We have a CEO access with our design program that allows people at the executive level to see how artists are using these tools and sort of pushing the capability of the tools, as well as the new products that are being made. And if any of you come to New York, I'd love to share some of that work being done. So Computational Fashion is ongoing. We'll be launching our summer masterclass soon, and we usually have 10 to 15 people participate in the program over the summer with an exhibition at the end. And it's always a learning experience for all of us staff as well, to see what comes out of the program. And the joy of it is to give this kind of wild creative freedom to some of the most interesting experimental artists, fashion designers, and engineers to be surprised on a daily basis from what comes out of that. Untitled were participants in our master class last year, And these are garments that were prototyped in the master class, and very happily they walked the New York Fashion Week. Were featured in Vogue in February of this year, which was a great success for us to see that the fashion world is really opening up to these experimental designs and the kind of approach that we're bringing to the program. Basically, in closing, Eyebeam is an organization that puts ideas first, that everything starts from an idea. Our entrance into the program is based on the ideas that people present to us. We believe that everything has to have a solid core of a brilliant horizon-looking idea, essentially. And we believe in the value of process, and you know, a lot of people pay lip service to that, but I think at Eyebeam that is something that we are extraordinarily focused on. Again, all of our staff are there to support our residents as they go through the creative process, and we do encourage the release early, release often, iterate, fail, try again sort of model, and that's been our model for literally 20 years. And we believe that the third component of this is that there has to be an impact. For the ideas in the process to live in a vacuum is not really good enough. There has to be an outcome that opens up to the larger world, and that's a huge component of sort of the final step in the Eyebeam process. Thank you for your time. I'd love to talk to any of you more afterwards if you would like to learn more about Eyebeam or potential partnership opportunities with a nonprofit. And we'd like to extend an invitation to come visit our space in Brooklyn if you ever happen to be up that way. Thank you.